Team Scritch, welcome back to Scritch is Going Wild channel. So here we are still July 15th, still in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, and just behind me is what is known as John Brown's Fort. So John Brown led an insurrection here in 1859. As a matter of fact, it was October 16th, 1859, and he led a group of 22 people, including himself, and they came down here because there was an arsenal that the army had down here, and they wanted to get in, they wanted to get the weapons, and they wanted to start an insurrection because they wanted to stop slavery if they could. And a lot of people would attribute a lot of things that happened in the Civil War to starting right here in 1859 because of what John Brown and his men did. So they came down. It did not work. It failed. There was a shot that rang out, and one of the citizens heard about it. He was actually a doctor. One of the party in John Brown's, one of John Brown's men, they got injured, and it was a mortal wound. The doctor came up. They were not going to let the doctor go, but he tried to help as best he could, and unfortunately he's just like, there's nothing else I can do. So they let the doctor go. Well, the doctor let everybody know what was going on. The militia, the citizens of the town, they all came together, and they basically cornered John Brown's men in this, what they call the fort. This is the old firehouse back then. And so they cornered him in here, and it has become affectionately known as John Brown's Fort because people believe this is the start of ending slavery in our country. So just a neat little building. Eventually everybody from the party died. They were captured, they were tried in Charlestown, and John Brown himself was actually hung on December 2nd for treason. So just a little bit of history here. Even before the Civil War gets here, and it changed hands 8 times because of the strategic location, with the Shenandoah flowing into the Potomac, and then the Potomac continuing to flow south. The Shenandoah flows north to the Potomac, and then the Potomac flows south. And we're going to go over the bridge, and I'll get a picture of that, and I'll get a picture of the beauty of all of these rivers coming together. As a matter of fact, Thomas Jefferson came here at one point in time, and he basically said this was one of the most beautiful places he had ever seen, and that it would be worth getting on a boat coming over from Europe just to come to Harpers Ferry to see this location. So now we are actually in the national park. This is all part of the national park. These buildings up here on this street, and this is the street that goes to the ice cream shops. This is all part of the national park as well. Just give you a quick tour of what you'll see if you come down here. There's monuments all over the place. I mean, I could basically do this all day. But if you haven't been here, well worth coming, well worth seeing, well worth visiting. The national park has basically restored a lot of these buildings to what they looked like at the period and the time for preservation, and so that you can come down and see it. Coming up here on the left is the Whitehall Tavern. Just stop and show you this church up there. Just a beautiful, gorgeous church. Here's the Whitehall Tavern. Pretty much, from what I understand, restored to what it probably looked like back in the day. So we're going to quickly go back down here by the national park and turn the corner. So once again, right in front of us is John Brown's Fort, the old firehouse. And you can see they still have the nostalgia. They've got the stones in the gutter on the side of the roads down here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So as far as the Civil War goes, it stretches way back, miles back into town. And then on these heights, you have Maryland Heights, you have Loudon Heights, and then you have Harpers Ferry. And so that's where many of the battles took place down here. There's an old foundation. We'll go take a look and see what that is for you history buffs. Oh, this was the old armory. So this is where John Brown and them came and wanted to get the arms. So the foundation for the old armory. So the one thing I failed to mention is, oddly enough, it was Robert E. Lee who they called. They wanted a contingent of Marines to come down and take care of this John Brown situation after the militia and after the citizens corralled them. And so they sent a bunch of Marines, but the closest officer to put in charge was actually Robert E. Lee at the time. And he was a lieutenant colonel at the time in the United States Army, because there was only one army. We didn't have a Confederate trying to break away at the time. And so he actually came down, and he was the person in charge to make sure that this insurrection got shut down. And so just an interesting bit of trivia, because everybody just thinks about Robert E. Lee in terms of the Confederacy, but he was in the Army before they broke away. So if you're not tracking that, and so here's just some other buildings down here that you can go in, you can visit, you can see period times. And like I said, it just continues to go on. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I did just want to give you that little bit of history so you could see it. You can see these buildings, and you can see the stone in the buildings, as I was talking in my previous video, how they blasted the stone and they carved it. You can see just big rocks back there, so they blasted those out and they made these buildings. So just absolutely a wonderful little place where you can come walk around. Well worth your time. It's not hard to get around. It's awesome. It's beautiful. Can't wait to walk across the train bridge. You can just kind of barely see the top of the train bridge over there, and we will be right on the side walking across that. And then here we're going back up the main road where we stayed, and it's getting close to 11 o'clock, and I'm gonna go meet Golden Goddess for some lunch. That's right, because we're kind of hungry, and then we're gonna get a couple more miles in today, and then we're gonna stop at another hostel. So that's kind of nice, not having to pitch the tent. But here's another picture up to the church, and you can just see the walls that were made out of the stone. Just gorgeous little town, gorgeous buildings. And up there on the left is a stone building where we stayed. So really easy to walk around, get around, little boutiques, little shops. Gorgeous, beautiful, just great area. Highly recommend, if you get a chance, you come and you can check out Harpers Ferry. You can make a trip of it. You're not that far from DC, you're not that far from Gettysburg, you're not that far from Antietam. And it's about all I got for you on this one. Just show you a little bit more walking up here, what it looks like to walk up this little street. And it's kind of a bit of a hill, but not too bad. Tons of B&Bs in the area, so you can check that out if you want to come. So that's all I got for you right now. Say your prayers, do something positive, stay positive, do something good for somebody. And until next time, Sky King out.